She's giving a very comprehensive discussion. So please let me take my microphone. Hi guys, good afternoon. My name is Nancy. So you see that I've given you some booklets for you to look at, and I'm sure you're all very curious as to what the booklets are for. So I work with an organization called BudgIT Ghana, and BudgIT Ghana is concerned with simplifying and then condensing complex government data or government information for citizens to easily understand, so that we can know what is going on in the public finance space, the public affairs space. Then we can make meaningful contributions as citizens. So I want to ask a very quick question. How many of us in last year, November, how many of us watched the proceedings for the 2024 national budget? If you did. No one. Okay. So what about in January when the minister came in, then they approved the budget allocations? Did any of you watch that? Okay. So I'm going to ask again. Before we started rolling, I was speaking to Miss, your name? Gertrude. So Gertrude was about defining what's a national budget for us. So we'll give her the platform so that she do it better for us. What is a national budget? So what do you understand when you hear the word national budget?
Okay, so personally, when I hear national budget, I know it includes the expenditure for government business for the year in focus, and then it entails budget. It entails spending for various sectors. That it could be the health sector, the education sector, almost every ministry, and then what it would be allocated for the youth employment. Now we hear of the Youth Employment Agency that they are coming up, and they would also want to be featured in the national budget. Then they will be giving some kind of monies to use in their daily things. Yes.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's very wonderful. I'm very happy. So does anyone have any idea, anything else to add in terms of input as far as what a national budget is? Ghana's national budget. Please, your name?
Adiza. I think a budget is made up of the fiscal policy instruments or the indicators. We have the government spendings and the tax. And then the tax helps the government to generate revenue to finance the various expenditures of the economy. And then the government uses the tax as a means of generating those revenues to finance its expenditures. And the expenditures include the various sectors, the contributions they make to GDP.
Hey, I'm in the presence of economists. That's so nice. So, because you guys said you didn't watch the reading or the presentation of the 2024 national budget, I'm here to answer all your questions, to give you information. So, what I gave you earlier, what you are all looking at, is a simplified version of the Ghana national budget, specifically the 2024 national budget. And so what BudgIT Ghana has done is that we have condensed the about 300 and something pages documents from the Ministry of Finance into this brochure you are holding. Yes. Would you want to read this one or read the 300 pages? And so the reason why we've done that is basically what she just said. You want to read this one because it's simpler and easy to understand. So let us all open to the first, let's say page 1. So you see page 1, it says that this year the government is operating with a particular theme. The theme is pursuing growth and development within a stable macroeconomic environment. And so it says the analysis of Ghana's 2024 budget. So we have broken down all the data, and then we have analyzed what it means for Ghanaians, because at the end of the day we do this so that Ghanaians can better understand what's going on. So let's go to page 3. I like the way we are all students and we understand what's going on. Okay, so you see that page 3 is saying something about the 2024 budget components. So you can see budget summary. So a budget summary is basically a recap or a summary of what the government intends to do financially in that particular year. So it has the total revenue, the total expenditure, and then the budget deficits. So this year, the government of Ghana is anticipating that it will raise 176.4 billion Ghana cedis to sort ourselves for the 2024 fiscal or financial year. But at the same time, the government is also anticipating spending 226.7 billion Ghana cedis.
You don't have enough money and your expenditure is more than your income.
Yes, so she has said this very well. The expenditure is obviously more than the income. So you see something at the right side that is in red that talks about budget deficits. Who knows what that is?
So the deficit, it means that the expenditure is more than the revenue that the government has. So per the data that we have here, when you subtract the revenue from the expenditure, the amount that you will be left, that will be the deficit of the country.
Perfect. So the 50.1 billion there you see means that Ghana is falling short 50.1 billion to cover the expenses that we are anticipating making in this particular year. So you see that already before this data was released in November 2023. Every year, the national budget in Ghana is first read in Parliament by the Ministry of Finance in November, mostly November, and then by January, Parliament would look at the budget and see, hey, this Ministry of Finance say you want to give public safety 30 billion Ghana. It's not realistic. We'll give you 25. So what happens in January is that by January, February, the Parliament approves the budget that was presented in November, and then we have something called the appropriation budget or the appropriation act. So when you go to the Ministry of Finance website, you see 2024 national budgets and economic statements. Then you see 2024 appropriation act. The appropriation act is just simply the version of the budget that has been approved by Parliament. Do you get it? So this particular data we are looking at is was initially presented in November, and then Parliament sat down January, February and approved it. So all these figures you are seeing here are approved budget figures that Ghana is working with for this particular year. So you see that when you go down, you see this particular infographic that we have here. The one that's like someone is pouring something. So it is a summary of the total revenue that we are anticipating raising for this particular year. So 173 is from domestic revenue, which means that out of the 176.4 billion we want to raise this year, 173 is going to be raised internally in Ghana from avenues and from channels and sources within the country, and then 3.1 billion is going to be raised through other means. So you see that 14.978 is coming from oil and gas, 2.5 billion is coming from lodgements, other revenue is accounting for 7.6, and then 12.3 is coming from the retention of use by MMDAs, which is ministries, departments and agencies in government, and then 14.8 billion is accounting for non-tax revenue. So 135.9 billion is accounting for revenue that has nothing to do with oil money, essentially. So that particular figure is money that we raise in Ghana here that has nothing to do with oil money. So at the end of the day, you see how we have broken down the avenues through which Ghana is expecting to raise that particular figure. And then on the right side on page 4, you see that we have enumerated the expenditure framework and then the expenditure outlook, where the money, the 226 that we said we want to spend this year, it is going to these particular areas. So you see that employees' compensation is basically wages and salaries. Government is planning to spend 68.68 billion to pay public sector workers. We are supposed to, as we have discussed here, you know what is going on in the public space as far as at least the national budget is concerned. So I just want to quickly ask you that before you knew this and now that you know this, what are you going to do differently now that you have this kind of information? How are you going to approach things as a citizen, as a young person or as a youth? Akpene.
Less wastage of items, such as spending of buying unnecessary items.
Okay, who else?
So I also advise that we pay our taxes as citizens and also use our facilities based on how we are contributing to the economy. That's all.
Okay, sweetheart, I'm coming to you.
I think they said mine.
Yeah, said your own. You have something to say? Let me.
So I also think we should stop corruption.
Okay, please go further.
Yes, because looking at all these expenditures that the government is making, imagine if monies weren't passing different places and then all these monies were used for the things that they were supposed to be used for. We would have been able to accrue more revenue than what we have now, and the country's budget deficit would have been reduced. So I would advocate that people who have the opportunity to use public offices, those in our public offices, the public sector, and even we as individuals, we should put in our mind that corruption is not good. We have to stop it, because we think that whatever we are doing it for our own self, but in future it is affecting the generation. This money that we are owing that is here, this money, it might not be us that would pay for it, but then at the generations to come, they would suffer from what we are doing. So yeah, that's how I advocate for that.
Okay. That was very insightful and interesting. I'll come to him to add on to what you have said.
Yes, I think I'm on the same platform with Gertrude, because looking at these things, some of them, they are fallacies if you ask me, because some of them will not go to where they are supposed to go to. So from what I know now, I have to be an ambassador. Like we just learned from the conferences, there are agencies, organizations who are already in action and they are monitoring these things. We should all be part to monitor, because we are all accountable and they should be accountable to us as well. These are our monies. If you buy pure water, you are paying tax. If you go to the boutique, whatever you buy, you're paying tax. So whatever we are seeing here is our own monies. And so we should be ready to monitor how they are going to be spent, so that we get the right result. Because if not, these things, they are here, we see billions, but at the end of the day, it will be in somebody's locker in their bedrooms, which we want to avoid it. So we are all going to be ambassadors to monitor the progress. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Does anyone else have something to add?
I think they should cut on their expenditure. Those unnecessary spendings and then travels that most of these government officials do, they are just wasting our resources. Because if we really channel these resources into a lot of developmental projects, I think the country would have moved a step further, not always retrogressing and always waiting to go and beg for money from the so-called developed countries, and that it's really not helping the country. Because education, for instance, most schools are very deprived. If we take these monies they are using for Dubai trips and those unnecessary trips and spendings, I think the country will do well. So these budget stuff, I think we have to really take a very good look at it, and they have to cut on their spending. It's bad.
That's nice. That's very interesting. I like the submissions you all have made, and I know that you guys are going to use these booklets. Unfortunately, at this particular moment, I'm not carrying a lot, so I would have given you more to win, in quotes, spread the gospel. But I just want to quickly tell us that we should take note of the fact that this particular month, hopefully this particular month in July, the Ministry of Finance is going to read what we call the mid-year budget review, and that is basically a half-year review of what we have done so far. So we said we're going to raise 176.4 billion. We are anticipating spending 226.67 billion. So what have we done thus far? We are in July now. How much have we spent? What else do we need to do? What else have we done that we need to cut on? Do we need to make some cuts? Do we need to bring something? There's something called a supplementary budget. That is when we find out that there's expenses or things cropping up in the course of the year that the Ministry of Finance or the government has to take care of. That is an avenue for them to create another budget to supplement, so supplementary in quotes, what we already have as that particular year's national budget. So I would encourage you that keep watch, follow the news, and then hopefully last year it was around the 15th 16th of July, and I know that we are very close. Today is 11th, so we are yet to hear a formal announcement from the ministry and from governments on when the reading is going to be done, but follow the news. The way I've brought you gospel, spread the gospel and follow the news. And so when you are able to juxtapose what the minister is reading for the review against what you have in this particular information, you'll be able to know that are we retrogressing or we are making progress. Okay, thank you all so much for your time and your contribution. You have a question, please go ahead.
So I wanted to ask you, what if the government spent within their means?
So sometimes there's something we call a balanced budget. So a balanced budget is very rare, especially in our part of the world. But it is when the expenditure is almost the same as the revenue, which almost never happens, because most of the time we do a lot of carrying off from the previous fiscal year into this particular. You know that the budget deficit there is not the only debt we have to pay. Our current debt stock is around 60 to 70% of GDP. We owe a lot internally and externally. So, sweetheart, your point is excellent. So, the thing that we have to do is that she has said that we have to, as a country, we have to revise certain spendings that we do not need. If this particular thing has to be done, is it necessary? And is it necessary now? It is, at the end of the day, they are public servants, which means they are there to serve the public, which is you and I. And so we have a place to make an input. That is why BudgIT Ghana does this. We simplify the data. So we don't only do this for the national budgets. We do it for other sectors like the health issues, the issues in extractives, oil and gas, mining and all that. We condense the information and then we take it to the ordinary citizen. Do you know this is happening? Do you know this is going on? When you go on our social media, you see that recently, the government, the Ministry of Finance and the IMF had a press conference to tell us what we have done so far in our IMF deal with them. So when you go to our Twitter page or our social media page, you see that oh, dear citizen, are you aware that Ghana has done this? Are you aware that this is going on? Are you aware that this money has been sent here or this is going on? We keep you abreast and then you know what is going on. Then at the end of the day, you are informed to make informed decisions. So thank you all very much for your time today, and I hope that you would make use of this document and all the data and information you have received. Thank you and enjoy your day. Bye.